This summer, we launched Reliable Grooved. Since then, tens of thousands of reliable couplings and fittings have been installed throughout the Americas. Pre-lubricated, approved for service up to 300 PSI. In stock at each of Reliable's distribution locations. Quality grooved from the fire protection experts.
Reliable, bringing reliable quality to groove.
Like and subscribe.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. Today, I have Rex Schwendiman on from Reliable. Rex, how's it going today?
Really good. Thank you.
It's still pretty early, eh?
Yeah, real early here, actually.
So we got Rex on from Reliable. In a little bit, we're going to start talking about the new Grooved Reliable products that are available. You guys released them earlier this year. I think it's been a big success. But Rex, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself before we get into the Groove products?
All right. So, a little bit about me. I've been in the business since I was 18 years old. Got in because a neighbor actually owned a fire sprinkler contracting company. Okay. And he asked me if I wanted to work in a shop. So I didn't have any idea of what that meant. So I jumped in and started threading pipe. And, while I was going to college, just worked in the shop and helped him along that way. And then eventually worked my way into the field and worked out there for a while and knew I didn't like to be in heights. So I got out of that real quick and moved inside, became a designer. Then did some estimating and then ran some offices for a couple of companies, Century out of Tacoma, Washington. They bought the company that I was at in Utah, and then Warmold Fire Systems ended up buying them out of Australia. And they are the ones that moved me to Dallas, and I was in their corporate office, moved to Tulsa, ran their office up there for a while, and then eventually moved over and got into the business with Reliable in the manufacturing side. So I have a very varied experience within the industry. I've seen all sides of it. Now I'm in the manufacturing and supply side, and it's been a great industry for me, and it's helped me provide for my family. So I wouldn't change anything that I've done.
The thing about the fire protection industry, and here's tangent number one that we'll go into, is there's nobody, I haven't spoke with anybody that talks to their high school advisor and said, the fire protection industry would be you always know somebody, you're related to somebody. That's how people get into this industry. And thinking about it, it's a pretty tight industry, but it's a huge industry as well. There's, thousands and tens of thousands of sprinkler fitters, designers, engineers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of them got into it by, I know a guy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the guy that hired me, I'll bet he spawned off 6 or 7 companies of people in my neighborhood, kids from the neighborhood that ended up working for him, either in the field or design. My brother-in-law ended up starting a couple of companies. I mean, it was just sort of a close-knit group of people. And to be honest with you, all of us are still in the industry. So nobody got in and then got out. Everybody stayed in. And, you probably heard the name Russ Levitt and some of those guys. He was part of that group that came in at Don Brothers in the very beginning back in the 80s. And, we had this tight knit group of guys, and we just kept going forward, working in sprinklers. And I think all of us had, in the beginning, it was a job. And then I think all of us kind of developed a passion for not only the business, but also the passion for, what sprinklers do and maybe doing something that was a little beyond just making money. And if you talk to any of those guys today, including Russ, he would tell the exact same thing, that, we got into this thing and it turned into a lifelong endeavor for most of us. And, 18 to 67, I'm an old dude. So, that's a long time. That's, close to 50 years, working sprinklers around. So,
and never a dull moment yet, or what?
No, there have been some dull moments, but for the most part, it's pretty exciting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the best things though is that the sprinkler industry has given me the opportunity to travel really around the world. So I've been to association meetings. I've been to exhibits, pretty much in almost every country. So I've had an opportunity to not just talk about sprinklers, but to, see the world as well. And that's been really, really good for me and for my family as well. So.
Yeah, I'm just kind of starting to dip my toes into that with the podcast, where I'm traveling with the podcast now, and I'm starting to say Boston. I was in Maryland. Starting to get into the traveling portion of the industry with having the podcast. So that's been a lot of fun as well. Like, I've been to New York in the past, and then COVID shut everything down. Now the traveling is starting to come back, and it's awesome. And
you need to take your podcast down to Dubai in January. That's where it really gets interesting, because then you have all the Middle Eastern countries and most of the countries from around the world come into Dubai. That's probably the biggest fire show in the world. And what's that?
What's that one called?
It's called Intersect.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have heard of that. People in Boston were asking me if I was going to that.
You should. That one's really good. That you'll get a real flavor for what goes on around the world in fire protection and in every piece of the fire protection industry. So it's a great show. I'll be there. So
we can actually link up. Well,
there you go. We can do a podcast from down there.
We could do multiple podcasts from down there.
There you go.
Funny enough, Dubai, like the United Emirates, places like those, that's one of my top 5 followings.
Really?
It changes, but Dubai, I've got a pretty good following in Dubai. Like, as far as like consistent and weekly downloads, Dubai's in the top 5.
Yeah, they're super active in fire protection, and obviously that's the case because you see, the type of buildings that they're building down there. I mean, it's really crazy to see how much that's been developed since the early 80s.
And they are starting to, like, what you're seeing is a lot of major fire incidents coming from the area as well.
Yep.
Especially late cladding on the outside of hotels and stuff like that is really starting to become an issue. And it seems like most of them are from that area.
Yeah. I saw that big fire that they had down there a few years ago. So
they've had it. I think they had one last week as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know that. So,
yeah.
Well, I know they're very active in the industry. So, and that, again, getting to that show will give you a real taste of, what everybody's doing around the world, but especially in that Middle Eastern market. And they're very strong down there. So,
yeah, I'm going to start looking into it there. I'll get you to email me the name of that show, and I'll be researching it and seeing. Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of my ticket so you can know when I'm going to be there now. So.
I'm not going to sit in your seat.
Yeah, you probably won't want my seat anyway. So there you
go. Any tangent number 1 done. The getting into the reliable groove products, which is the original purpose of this. Learning about you is number 1. The reliable groove products. With all the other groove products on the market now, Reliable decided to jump into it with both feet, coming in heavy with it.
Right.
What was the kind of the discussions that we're having in your office? Because that's kind of what the podcast is about. Let's have all these back office conversations.
Right.
What was the key reasoning for Reliable to say, let's get into the groove market with so many, without naming names, there's so many heavy hitters out there in the groove product market. Why try to get into it?
So, really from the outset, we started doing some private label products prior to Grooved, butterfly valves, flexible drops, other types of valves, the OSNY valves, those type of things. And we just felt like one of the things that we could bring to the market is the Reliable name, right? So that's why we started private labeling a lot of products, because Reliable's name for 100 years has stood for quality and dependability, reliability. And so we were selling a brand of Grooved at the time. Really, there's only 2 major brands out there. And we thought, this was an opportunity for us to put our name on one of the big products that's used in any sprinkler system, and then bring some quality to the marketplace and offer our customers an alternative. And so, we sat around the table for 2 or 3 years and discussed, what could we do? How could we do it? What was the best way to do it? Obviously, there's a business decision to be made there. Is it profitable enough to get into that market? We just didn't want to bring a product in and not make money. So, we went through all those scenarios. I spent a lot of time in China going through different foundries there, went to other countries and looked at their foundry capabilities. But, and then we even discussed, is it possibility to private label something here in the US and have a US product? The problem being is that, from a competitive standpoint, it just wasn't the best move to make. So we knew we were probably going to have to go overseas with the intent that we were going to, maybe move around and look for different opportunities as we got going. So, we found a manufacturing partner, actually in China, who made a really good, high quality product. We didn't jump in immediately. What we did is we started to vet the product from a UL/FM standpoint, VDS and LPCB. Wanted to find out, what they provided, what they could give to us. We found out that there were a lot of holes in their approvals. And so through that vetting process, we took the manufacturer to UL and FM. We got the holes filled in. We got the approvals done. One of those was on the specialty pipe. They didn't have any specialty pipe listings. We got all those listings completed, which was really important to us because there's a ton of Schedule 7 that's being used out there and you just have to be approved. Mm-hmm. So after going through all that for about a year and a half, we decided to, that we were prepared to go. We'd also helped them with some development on some gaskets and different things, got it to where we wanted it. And then the decision that was made by, our management and ownership, family-owned business, was we're not getting into this unless we have a major stock of material here in the US before we jump in. Yep. And so there was a massive investment made by the owners of our company to bring in over a year's worth of grooved. And we never sold one product until that was all sitting here in our Dallas system component warehouse. So we're sitting on a ton of product before I ever opened the door, because the last thing we wanted to do, Chris, is we just didn't want to get out into the field and then have somebody say, well, I need a 2.5 inch coupling, and say, oh yeah, we just sold the last 20 we had. That's just not going to happen. So we keep a year in stock, and then we keep a supply of 5 months, either rolling or in production behind it. So we've got plenty of supply. Price is really good. The key is being able to service our customers. But the most important part, Chris, is just the fact that, Reliable's name's on it. And that just means something. We're going to stand behind anything that we have our name on that goes out into the field. And I think if you talk to any contractor, they'll tell you that's the fact.
The vetting process that you talked about earlier, how many different manufacturers? I mean, I'm sure it was a whirlwind of development. I'm sure it wasn't like a 6 months, let's go over for a week and let's check out 2 or 3 locations. How many different manufacturers do you think you guys went through before you found the one that you essentially not married, but have linked up with?
Oh, I probably personally with my sourcing guy, Tak Chong, we probably went to 15 different sources before we zeroed it down. And even today, we're looking at alternate sources, right? This is a process that's in motion continually. Yeah. Even though we've zeroed in on this guy and we're getting product and we feel real comfortable, we're also looking at other alternatives and other alternatives outside the Chinese market so that we can possibly, improve what we can do and what we can bring in here. One of the big things, though, Chris, is the quality aspect of it. We've hired our own quality people who are in the foundry. So they work for Reliable. They're in the foundry. They're going through the processes. They pull their own metal samples. They do everything that a guy that's in a foundry would do if he worked for the foundry. They do that for us, and they watch it all the way through to packaging and shipment. So that's one thing that we do a little bit different than maybe some of our competitors that don't have their own quality people on ground. The other key piece is that gasket, right? I mean, that's the operating element of a groove coupling, and we're very, very conscientious of where that EPDM rubber is stored, how it's manufactured, how long it's been there. We test dates on those. So that's another thing that we watch very closely, so that, again, it's got Reliable's name on it. If it comes into the field, you know it's going to work. Just like our heads have worked for 100 years, our group couplings are going to be the same. Presumably,
you guys have the same pre-lubricated gasket kind of technology that's kind of become the mainstay with everybody. Is even if you don't have a pre-lubricated gasket, guys aren't lubricating gaskets in the field anymore.
Yeah. Everything's
You almost
pre-lubed.
have to as a standard now is pre-lube gas.
Pretty much standard. And yes, we have a pre-lubed. We have an injected gasket as well as one that has the coating on the outside. You'll see the little powder that comes with it. So,
yeah, I remember being in Boston, like the product was formally launched, I believe, shortly after Boston.
Right then. Yeah, June is when we showed it for the first time in the NFPA, and then we actually launched it full scale in July.
Yes, I remember everybody scrambling at NFPA when your set showed up, so to speak. Everybody going around and changing the couplings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that had to happen fast because I wasn't going to have anybody else's couplings on my stuff. So
that's right. Yeah, I remember we were here pretty late last night changing couplings out, and it was man, I was happy to see that. I think I found one, but all of them were with the writing the right way.
Oh, right. So you could actually read it.
That's right. The one thing, it's got to look pretty, right? So
Yeah.
There's the most beautiful thing in the world, obviously.
But never happens in the field, but you need it at the show like that. So
you gotta have it at the show. Yeah. It's in the valve room. Do whatever you want up there when people can't see it. But
exactly right.
Yeah, I think I was giving Carrie a hard time about that. Actually, I was like, "Hey, you missed one over there."
Yeah, he didn't run over there and change it though, did he?
No, he almost. I almost stayed in Boston.
Oh man.
So the development of the product, like how long has this been in development for with Reliable? Like it's obviously it wasn't like a February, let's start making groove products.
No. So this product in general has been this manufacturer has been making groove couplings for years. Okay. Right. So it's not something that's new to them. And we didn't want that. We didn't want somebody that was just getting into the groove game and us being the guinea pig or our customers being it. They've had this product out there for, 10, 15 years.
Right.
Not really here in the US much. They sold a little bit here, but they concentrated their efforts in their own domestic market as well as internationally. They were selling, and they sell to a couple of very big international customers in Europe. That they provide the product for. So that was why we felt really comfortable with them in general, is that this product had already been pretty much field vetted,
right?
Because they just didn't have, and we did a lot of checking around with customers and distributors of theirs outside the US that, were very happy with the product that they were getting. So from that aspect, it was pretty easy, an easy feeling about the quality. Okay. So when we got involved in it, our basic thing was to bring some over. We tested it in Liberty, in our own test facility there, just to get a feel and let those guys work with it and see what they thought. Yep. And then, we have an engineer that works for me, Jeremy Kane, who was familiar with this same facility, who'd done work with them in the past. And so we were able to work with him and them in developing what we wanted to, as far as a quality control side of it. And so really the process, probably 2 years in total, getting it all lined up and ready to go.
That's
so
awesome.
Again, the key element there is Reliable's names on it. I keep going back to that. Kevin Fee, the owner of the company, has made it perfectly clear. If you put my name on there, it better live up to the standards that our heads and valves live up to, that we manufacture ourselves. And so we spent a lot of time, working through the product itself. So.
Yeah. My grandfather used to say, you write your name and phone number on every piece of pipe you put in. So if somebody has a problem with it, they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chris, the other thing is this product, it was actually being made under a different name and being brought into the US. We'd actually sold it for a while. So in complete disclosure, we'd actually sold this type of product under a different name for a few months.
Okay.
And that company, what's that?
That was going to be my next question. If it was the same manufacturer as the Reliable distribution was doing ahead of time.
It absolutely was. We had linked up with a guy or a company, a couple of guys that thought they had this great distribution philosophy. They sold me on it. And as being as old as I am, I shouldn't have fallen for it. But anyway, I fell for it. They brought the product in. It was a good product, but it hadn't been vetted. It really hasn't. These guys weren't sprinkler guys. They were basically distribution guys, and they had made this contact and they were bringing the product in. We vetted it then to a certain extent. We figured they were doing the vetting on their side. It came in, we sold it for maybe 6-7 months. They ended up getting into trouble. The company shut down. At that point in time, we went direct to the manufacturer, and that's when the whole process started. We really need to look at this thing closer, right? And, we vetted out some of the things that were problems. And with that being said, that's when the whole process started as, what are we going to do for ourselves? Do we want to go back into buying from somebody else, or do we want to put Reliable's name on and go the real direction we wanted to go? And this was a big move for us because we had other products, right?
Yep.
Rascal Flex and those things. But this is a big product from the sense that there's so many parts that are involved.
Right.
So we wanted to do it right. And again, having the QC people, having an engineer that's dedicated to the product, those type of things were important to us. So yes, it was a product that we had sold before in complete disclosure, but we didn't really sell it for very long. And that product's basically off the market and is not available anymore. And we have the exclusive with this particular manufacturer.
So you're saying, right, you mentioned earlier that it is an import coupling right now. Are you guys possibly looking at in the future becoming a domestically manufacturer? Because I know that's important to, it's important to people until they see the price,
Right.
which is typical, right? If you want an affordable coupling, regardless of the manufacturer, everybody's the name of the game in fire protection and contracting in general is to be the lowest number, right?
Right.
When they come into plays with, shall be domestically manufactured products, that your price goes up immediately. So do you guys have any kind of idea to have a limited run, not a limited run, but a limited stock of domestically manufactured products for that reason?
We do carry a line that's not ours, so we can cover the domestic side.
Sure.
Would we get into the domestic manufacturing of the product? Probably not, because that means you're going to have to get into the foundry business here in the US. And to get into that business and the expertise that goes into that, it's probably not in Reliable's wheelhouse. It would probably have to be a purchase of some sort. And I don't think that we're ready to go that direction. Am I taking it totally off the table? Absolutely not, because that's the one thing that's been really fun here at Reliable. And that's really why I came here from the construction side, was that they really let you kind of freewheel with your ideas. You got ideas, throw them out on the table, go check them out, bring them back in, tell me what it's going to cost me, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. So, again, working here at Reliable has given me an opportunity to, in essence, really run my own company, right? I mean, they've just given me a checkbook to go out and do a lot of things. That doesn't mean I don't have to look at a P&L, and it better have a bottom line to it. But at the end of the day, like you asked the question, would you look at doing this or would I look at doing that? There is never anything off the table with Reliable. Things are being looked at all the time. It's a think tank down here in Cisco Components of new products that we're going to come out with. And I'll tell you, without revealing anything, there's 2 or 3 other pretty big deals that we're working on right now that we'll bring to the table within the next 18 months or so that, will be helpful, I think, to contractors and give them some other options. So again, just a great place to work, and Reliable is just a great company. So
yeah, well, hint to the voice in the background there listening in. I would love to help you guys launch that new product.
Okay. You got it. You're first on my list. Let me make a note here.
Yeah, make a note of that there. Put it right on the top. Boom, right above everybody else.
There you go. So
awesome. So how many, how are the sales going on this new product so far?
Actually, really good. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult right in the beginning because all this stuff is spec'd, right? So when you launch the product, we didn't give anybody advance notice. Okay. We didn't go out into the market and say, well, here's some literature, We didn't do it.
Right.
What we wanted to do is we didn't pass out the first piece of literature till my stock was sitting here. And the stock was sitting here, and I'd already spread it out to my distribution centers. They all had product, and they're all like waiting, when are we going to get to do it? When are we going to get to do it? And then As soon as the last container hit, I pushed the button and said, you guys are open to go out and start passing out the literature and talking about the product and giving pricing. At that point in time, obviously it takes, guys have already submitted on projects that, go out 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
So, we knew it was going to be a little hurdle getting out of the chute. But at this point in time, it's really started to take off. We feel really good about it. Had excellent feedback from the field. So we're really happy with the progress that the product's making. And we think that, it's just going to keep going up from here. So
I will say, like, I hear about a lot of products before launch, just being in the industry and the kind of the conversations that I have with people. I usually hear about, in the wind products that are coming. But when I saw those couplings for the first time, I was like, ooh, I didn't hear a damn word about this one.
Yeah, Chris, you weren't the only one, because I work with the AFSA board on some of their committees and stuff.
Yeah.
And they passed out the magazine for the one of the meetings. It was like in May or June or something like that before we announced it. And in it, there was an ad that John and those guys had put together. And, all my competitors opened up the book and it was like, what's going on here? Nobody knew this was coming, so it was good. It was nice to launch, a scud that nobody had a clue was coming their direction. And that, that was good and bad, right? I mean, because we didn't get anything out there to get into specs, but we did it by choice. We didn't want to get in too soon. We didn't want to reveal what we were doing too soon. I think a lot of people knew what we were doing, but we didn't want to reveal too soon. And so, coming out of the opening gate, it caused a little bit of delay in getting product out there. But now people are starting to submit, everything's starting to roll, and sales are right on target with what we thought we were going to be doing. So
awesome.
It's been good.
That's really good to hear. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we touch on with the new grooved reliable?
Not really. I think, from the aspect of, guys that may be listening, or contractors that are, tuning into this, give us an opportunity, because I think you're going to find that not only you're going to get a really good product, but you're going to get a really good price. The fact that Reliable stands behind this product completely and totally, you're never going to have to deal with anybody else other than the Reliable guy. So There's a lot of people out there distributing couplings, right? But they don't have any skin in the game when they're distributing those couplings. Even, the bigger guys, they distribute through, just warehouses that sell products. With this, you're dealing straight with the guy that's involved in the manufacturing of the product. We're involved in product development. So bring your ideas to me. If you have ideas, bring them. We're open to, designing new products, looking at new things. And again, without disclosing too much, we are working on some stuff behind the scenes that I think is going to be really interesting for guys in the field. And it will be field tested before we go to the market. So I think, give us an opportunity, give us a shot, listen to what we have, put some on some projects. And I think you'll find, that you're going to get a good quality product. And on top of that, one of the things you mentioned to me before was one of the reasons did we get into it because we wanted to be a full supplier? Absolutely. We want to be able to supply you everything that you need on a job site, right down to foam. So, we have a foam line that we carry. We do fabrication. So, the best part about this whole thing is that you're dealing with a manufacturer, right? And a manufacturer that knows the industry, that listens to the industry, that has support staff out there that will help you in any way that they possibly can. So with that said, I just can't say enough about, this particular product being what it is and the highest quality really out there. So
awesome. Rex, thanks for coming on the podcast and talking about this new product. I look forward to seeing it.
You bet. Thanks, Chris.
This episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is brought to you by the Laying It Down for Camp Bucko fundraiser being put on by the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. With local partners Wallace Kent Sprinkler, Troy Life and Fire Safety, Greater Toronto Fire Protection, Lamstar, and Joseph Hullage, with major provider of the fire hoses being brought to you by the Toronto Community Housing, we are well over the 63 kilometers required to break the world record. We're putting off the world record attempt until spring to allow for more donations to come in. www.firesprinklerpodcast.com for more information on how you can donate. Camp Bucko is the burn camp for kids of Ontario. It's open to burn survivors between the ages of 7 and 17. The camp has grown to over 70 children attending the week-long camp in August. There's no fee to attend Camp Bucko, and we'd like to keep it that way. Hoses are $20 a length to sponsor right now. All proceeds going to Camp Bucko. Thanks for your support.